Hey everyone, and welcome. Merry Christmas. I hope you all had a fabulous holiday. But today I want to give you a little bit of how do I say, a little bit of real talk. I'm going to give you some real talk because we're going to talk about your child's future without lifelong learning. I know it's kind of crazy because everybody always talks about, oh, we want lifelong learners. And I do too. We all want lifelong learners. We all want what it looks like. And we have a picture of what it looks like a little bit, maybe sometimes. If you don't, go back and listen to some of our previous episodes because I do talk about that and what that actually looks like. And we'll talk about that a little bit today as well because I'm going to real talk you, and I don't want to bum you out, but I do want to give you a reality check. At the end of the year, it's a good time and semester is over. I want you to take just a real deep look at what you're doing today and what you've been doing for homeschooling. And I want you to think about what it's going to get you in the future. What is the result of what you're doing? And that is the end goal. That's something I talk about all the time. Every single client, every single conversation I have with parents, every single day, all over the country, all over the world, I have conversations with people and I talk about that end goal. We have to know where we're going, what kind of people we're trying to raise, and we have to clarify that really, really specifically and then work intentionally on getting there. Because if we don't know what that is and we just start doing stuff, we could easily end up in the very wrong place, right? If you put the wrong destination into your GPS, you're going to get a different road to get there, right? Than you would if you ended up in the right place where you want to go, right? So we really have to talk about what that end goal is. And today I'm going to share with you a story. It's basically a longer story, but I want to share with you what it looks like if your kids don't have lifelong learning. And maybe you're already experiencing this. And if that's true, be sure to reach out to me because that is my jam, increasing that love of learning and creating those lifelong learners. But we have to have lifelong learners, you guys. Nobody really talks about it. So I really want you to see today, and I want you to ask yourself questions throughout this whole thing. I want you to ask yourself the question, is what I'm doing today getting me to that lifelong learner? And here's why we need it. We all want our kids to be hungry, confident learners. I hear from parents every single time I talk to them. Literally, I don't think one parent has ever said, I don't want my kid to be a lifelong learner. They may say it differently. You may hear things like, or you may say things like, I want my kid to be able to learn things when they need to. Or I want my kid to have the confidence to be able to learn things when they need to. Those are some of the things I hear all the time. But some things I don't think people understand, or at least they don't think about, is what opportunities there are for lifelong learners and without lifelong learning. Because guess what? Life without lifelong learning is limited. It's limited. And when we talk about our kids and we think about what we want for our kids, every single parent says, I want my kids to have the most opportunities and be prepared for whatever they want to do in life. Well, without lifelong learning, you're limiting that a lot. And with lifelong learning, the possibilities are endless, right? They can learn anything they want to learn when they need to learn it or when they want to learn it, right? So I want you to think about that. Without lifelong learning, life is limited. Lifelong learning makes everything more possible. And if that sounds like something you want for your kids, which I know you do, then reach out to me, message me. It's so easy to contact me, guys. I'm on Instagram, Facebook. Just message me. Also, you can email me, mentor@thefreedomscholar.com. All my contact information is always in these lives, in these podcast descriptions and episodes. So you can always contact me, okay? Because seriously, do you want to set your kids up for what I'm about to share with you? And this is so common. It's so common. I don't know. For me, I hear from parents every day that that is not what they want for their kids. And so I'm going to share with you a graphic right now. Okay, I'm going to share with you a graphic. And if you're listening to this on a podcast, I'm going to explain this graphic to you. So don't fret. But here's the graphic, okay? So you have these cute little penguins, and there's a group of little penguins walking down the beach, and there's one penguin that's kind of out in the front a little bit, right? And there's the other group of penguins that are following behind. So, which one do you want your kids to be? The one out in the front is the lifelong learner. That's the leader that goes out, is creative, has ingenuity, is imaginative, and can really lead people or anything that they want in their passions, right? And so the group of penguins following behind, who do you think that is? That's the box checker. That's life without lifelong learning. I know this is hard to hear and it's hard to think about, but it's the box checking that gets us to a life without lifelong learning. It's that thinking of, oh, I got to do more math. We've got to do more math or we're going to fall behind. I don't want my kids to fall behind. We're not doing enough. We have to do more. They're just not loving learning. That educational should, that box checking. We did our math. We did our language arts. We did our science. We did our this. We did our foreign language. That box checking mentality without the love of learning is how you end up with a life without lifelong learning and a follower. I know this is weird and it's real talk. I'm telling you, I'm real talking you today. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you a story and I'm going to leave this graphic up, and I want you to think about if your kids are going to be the penguins that are box checking, that are the followers, or your kid's going to be the one penguin out in the front, the lifelong learner and the leader. And if you notice on this graphic, the one out in the front has his beak up a little high, like, some of them do in the back too, but he's got his a little higher. He's thinking like, I got this. Come on, guys. I got the solutions. We're going, right? So I'm going to read to you a little story. And I want you to think about if this is your child, if this is your homeschool, and if this is your experience and how it will end up. Because this was my experience in school. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but I want to share with you this story. It comes from a book called A Thomas Jefferson Education by Oliver DeMille. It's one of my most favorite books. I actually read it first when I was teaching in the classroom, and then I reread it again when I had completely messed up homeschooling and I was box checking. This really shed a light on what I was doing wrong. And I'm going to share it with you today. So I want you to think about your kids and think about, this is homeschooling. This kid's in school, but I want you to think about it in homeschooling in terms of what you're doing, in terms of curriculum and what it's asking from your kids. Okay. So here it is. On the first day of school, the little boy waved to his mother and turned to run down the bright hallway to class. His teacher smiled and pointed out his desk. This is going to be great, he thought. I love to learn new things. After a few fun stories, the teacher handed out crayons and a paper and announced that it was time to draw a picture. The little boy enthusiastically grabbed the crayons and began to imagine all the things he could draw: mountains, lakes, airplanes, his family, his dog, the ocean, the stars at night. Hundreds of ideas raced through his creative little mind. His teacher, seeing that he had started drawing, stopped him and said that today the class would be drawing flowers. The boy's mind again ran wild. Daisies, daffodils, roses, carnations, violets, lilacs, pansies, mixed bouquets, green gardens full of rainbows of colors. The teacher again interrupted, informing the class that today they would be drawing a certain kind of flower. Taking colored chalk, the teacher went to the board and drew a green stem with 2 leaves and 4 identical pink petals. The little boy, eager to please, dutifully copied her drawing. After several attempts, his drawing looked exactly like hers. The teacher congratulated him for doing such good work. As the school year passed, the little boy became very good student. He learned to listen, obey instructions, and get the right answers on tests. His parents were very proud of him, and his teacher was impressed with all his excellent progress. When the school year arrived, the boy had done so well in his classes that he was enrolled in an accelerated program. During the first week of class, the teacher handed out crayons and paper and announced it was time to draw a picture. The little boy, still in love with art, enthusiastically picked up his crayons and waited for instructions. After several minutes, the teacher noticed that the little boy wasn't drawing. "Why haven't you started?" she asked. "Don't you like to draw?" "I love to draw," responded the little boy, "but I was waiting for you to tell us what the assignment is." "Just draw whatever you want," the teacher smiled and left the little boy to his creativity. The little boy sat for a long time, watching the minutes tick off the clock and wondering what he should draw. Nothing came to mind. Finally, in a burst of creative inspiration, he picked up his crayons and began to draw a green stem with 2 leaves and 4 identical pink petals. Now, if you're like me, I get chills every time I read this story, every time I think about this story, and it really shows the box checker mentality, this idea of a follower. He was waiting for instructions. It hurts my soul when I read this story and when I think about it, to think about the loss of love of learning there, the loss of creativity, the loss of imagination. And he's a box checker. He was waiting, and he's always going to be waiting unless he gets his love of learning back. Unless he gets that love of learning back, he's not going to become a lifelong learner. He's always going to be in the back here. He's always going to wait for instructions. And as long as that keeps being reinforced, he's going to keep waiting. He can get it back. Absolutely can get it back. If his entire paradigm changes and he has allowed his creativity and fostered his creativity through a lot of inspiration, right? A lack of box checking. And he can get that love of learning back. But if he doesn't, which, as you know, public school, and you guys, I'm going to be flat out honest with you, we're real talking today. That's how a lot of homeschools are too, because they just want a curriculum. A lot of parents follow the curriculum. We got to finish the book. We got to do our things. We got to, even if you don't finish the book, the curriculum puts a box, says you're going to learn this. You're going to learn it this way. And this is all we're going to learn, because we got to move on to the next page and the next topic and the next lesson. Do you see what I'm saying? It doesn't allow for a jumping off point to say, oh, what other kind of flowers can I draw? Oh, what other kind of, all these things, right? All this creativity. What can we dig deeper into this topic? It doesn't allow for that. We have a box and we follow it. And what do we get at the end of that? The curriculum is not a bad thing. It's a tool. And if it's used as a tool, it can spark inspiration and use as a spark for inspiration. However, sometimes, a lot of times, because it's all we know as parents, because we went to public school and we were box checkers, you guys. Number one box checker right here. I did just enough. I'm like, tell me what I need to do and what I have to do, and I'll do the bare minimum. I got B's and A's all throughout high school and college. I just did the bare minimum. Just tell me what I need to do and I'll do it. Am I going to go deeper? Nope. Am I going to try harder? Nope. But I'm going to do exactly what you told me to do and nothing more. Then in college, at the end of my college career, I was studying something and doing a research paper on something I felt truly interested and passionate about. And I was sitting around my dorm room and I had all these Xerox research papers in front of me. That's back in the day when we didn't have so much internet. And It was amazing. I thought, wow, I get to learn about all this stuff I want to learn about. This is fascinating. And I was almost done with school. I was almost done. And I had wasted all that time of where I could be learning all this amazing stuff. And I never did. I felt very inadequate with lots of gaps coming out of college. So I want you to think about this, and I want you to think about if that's you. If that's part of your homeschool experience, please, please, please contact me. Let's figure out a different way. You guys, there is a different way to bring back that love of learning, to raise lifelong learners. But if we don't, we end up box checking. And I ended up box checking still as a teacher after college. Even though I did like learning, I still was in this box. We have to do this, we have to do that, because I was in public school as a teacher, that's what you do. And I didn't really get to where my passions were and living into that and pursuing my passions and my mission to raise up leaders until after 40. You guys, that's crazy. That's crazy. On the other hand, I want to tell you a different story now. My son, he's 16 years old, just turned 16 last month. He is a lifelong learner. He is always thinking, oh, I could create something like that. Can I write a paper on that? I think, oh, I should read this book. This book would help me with this. Oh, I love, can we study some more about that? All the time he's getting little bits of inspiration, and then he digs deeper and he studies more, and he's constantly in this mode of thinking of new things. And usually when I stumble on something, he's like, oh, I can fix that for you, mommy. And he's like totally trying to fix that. And he taught himself Python code. He's coding AI programs at 16 years old. He's doing extra research in history, which he loves. He actually, the other day, about a week ago, he gave me a complete historical, like complete journey from like the Middle East, from Persia, and all the way to like modern times. I had never heard that before. I didn't learn history that way. We learned history like in a little bit here and a little bit over there and a little bit over there. It was never all brought together like that. And he didn't learn it that necessarily that way either, but because he's not limited by, we got to move on to the next topic. We got to move on to the next topic. He actually put it all together when he's reading stuff. He's like, oh yeah, that reminds me of this. Oh yeah, that reminds me of that, because he's interested in it when he's learning it. See what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? He's actually working on AI projects and coding projects that he's going to market probably before he's even out of high school. He's already working on some of them that are almost ready. So he's got this mindset already going. He's pursuing his passion. He's pursuing his mission and purpose to like go out in the world and change what he feels is wrong in the world, or he sees is a problem, right? That he wants to fix. That's what stirs his soul. And that's so exciting. Imagine not having your kids not waiting until 40 plus whatever until they find what they really want to do in life, right? That's what I'm talking about, you guys. That's living lifelong learning. Without it, you end up with what we just talked about, right? You end up with, like me, a box checker, a follower. I had some creativity as a teacher, and there is a little bit of that in there, but my mind is always, what should I be doing? I got to make sure we get the rules down, and we got to check these boxes, because that's how I was trained all through school and all through even teaching. So when I started homeschooling my son, I totally box checked him and messed it up, and his level of learning lowered because I was educational shooting on him. You guys know, episode 6, if you haven't listened to that yet, go back and listen to the educational should. It'll share a lot of light on that box checking mentality. But really, life without lifelong learning, there's no creativity. Just like that boy, just like me, there's not a lot of creativity. There's not a lot of imagination, ingenuity, passion. Life with lifelong learning has that. And in order to do that, you have to get love of learning high, and you have to unlearn the educational should, which is always our biggest hurdle as parents. And you have to get the skills to keep it high. You guys, that's what I do. That's my jam. That is my mission, to help parents get rid of that box checking mentality and really raise lifelong learners and raise those leaders that this world desperately needs. They need your kids. This world, we need your kids to be those leaders. You're already homeschooling. You're already doing amazing by taking on that responsibility. And now we just have to be intentional about it. I don't want you to feel bad about what you've been doing. I want you to take it as a note. Gosh, I didn't even realize. We need to shift gears. We need to figure out how to inspire lifelong learning. You guys, I got you in this. Contact me. That's why I created the Raising Leaders Roadmap, and that's what I'm here to help you do. So contact me. We'll just have a conversation about where we are getting started from, where you've been, what you've been doing, and where you want to go. That's my favorite thing to do, is to talk to you guys. So I hope to talk to you in the very near future. And you guys, I hope that we are both on the mission to raise lifelong learners. Talk to you again next week.